Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello all. Thank you for joining us here on the Placement Verification Program webinar, where we will discuss the newly implemented PVP for all campuses and the guidelines, submissions, and requirements for the PVP. So we will begin with the PVP requirements. Let me first, though, introduce the presenters we have with us today. First of all, myself, Ian Harrisduck, the Associate Vice President, Accreditation and Institutional Development. We also have Dr. Taran King, the Senior Manager of Institutional and Program Review. We have Mr. Stephen Gelfound, the Vice President of Information Technology, and Mr. Connor O'Malley, Institutional Data Analyst 1, aka PVP Guru. So the agenda today, as I mentioned, we'll go over the PVP requirements and procedures. This will go over both those institutions that have an upcoming visit in the fall 2016 cycle and the specific requirements and guidelines for those institutions, as well as the newly implemented every campus every month submission that's required for the 2017 CAR reporting period. So we'll go over both of those, the different procedures for each. We will then get into some specifics about how to do the PVP, so the PVP submission guidance, accessing and uploading the form, which will be navigated by Mr. Stephen Gelfound, and then completing the form, which Mr. Connor O'Malley will handle. Taran King will then talk about the sample emails that are sent out, and then we will have a point of answering some frequently asked questions. As you know, we had a webinar last week and had a number of questions based on the PVP. We've been collecting those and answering those, and we have a number of them available to answer for this webinar, and we will be posting a document with all the FAQs, not only for the PVP, but the CAR and everything else shortly. And then finally, if there are any additional questions and comments, hopefully we'll have time for that. We'll do this webinar for about an hour, and hopefully there will be time. We'll leave some time available for some questions. So without further ado, let's get into the PVP procedures for the fall 2016 visit. So this will be information that you had already received last week in the webinar about the new procedures for fall 2016, which is that institutions must submit the PVP information for all placements between January 1st, 2016 and June 30th, 2016. So remember, this is only for institutions that are on the schedule for fall 2016 that have either a full team visit or a quality assurance monitoring visit. You will receive specific guidance and timeframes for when and how to submit this PVP information through the visit memo from the ACICS staff coordinator conducting the visit, or a memo addendum that tells you all the information that you'll need to know on how to submit the PVP for the fall 2016 cycle. Just so you know, some of the procedures that will take place for the fall 2016, once you'll have a time frame, which will be approximately 2 weeks before the visit, that you're required to upload the PVP spreadsheet. We will conduct in a first attempt at the PVP, so an email will be sent to both the student, or excuse me, the graduate and employer immediately upon submission. So one email will go out right away once you submit the spreadsheet. If the graduate or employer don't confirm, then a second email will be attempted 1 week later, which would be approximately 1 week before the visit. And then again, if we receive no response, a final attempt, a third attempt, will occur 10 days following the original submission date, which would be just a few days before the visit. So once we gather that information on site at ACICS, we will obviously have some information, and you'll see how that will work later in the presentation, but we'll have information on which graduate and or employer supplied confirmation information. ACICS will review that information for the fall 2016 visits in-house and make a determination on the confirmation based on the information provided. Then, if no confirmation was received by the employer and or graduate after the 3 attempts that we had in sending out the emails to both graduate and employer, then we will go through the process of having our data integrity reviewer, the DIR, contact the graduate and or employer by phone while on site. So we will continue with the process of contacting graduates or employers while on site, but we will only do that for those that were not able to be contacted through the PVP process that had occurred previously. This will allow us to have much more recent information than typical on the car, so we'll be dealing obviously with 6 months of data, but that data will be much fresher than the ones that we had been doing with the car, since it will only be a couple months old of the placements. And then we'll also be able to use our PVP process to allow for evaluators to, or the DIR reviewer, excuse me, to do much less contacting than necessary via phone. So a lot of the ability of the PVP process will help with confirming placements. So that is the requirements for the 2016 fall 2016 cycle. We will, through this presentation, give more on exactly how you need to upload and what that looks like in just a sec. But just to go over the requirements again for the every campus every month requirement of the 2017 Campus Accountability Report, which obviously the reporting period had started July 1st, and we're having our first placement submissions due at the end of this month. So, as I've said, every campus every month must submit placement information through the PVP, and that is every campus and every month. The placement information will be due at the end of the subsequent month. So as I said, for all July placements, July 2016 placements, the information will be due by August 31st, 2016, and as we know, that is in only a few days from now. And then, of course, moving on, any August placements will be due by September 30th and so forth. Obviously, for the months of July and October, there is some overlap between which CAR period is being reviewed, since students or graduates can be placed up until November 1 for the 2016 CAR. So for the July through October months, you are required to submit both placements for the students who were in the previous CAR, the 2016 CAR, or the current CAR, which will be the 2017. So regardless of when they graduated, whether it was before July or June 30th or after July 1, we do ask that you submit those placements, and that is the purpose, which we'll go into in a bit, for the graduation date and why we need that information to differentiate between which CAR the student or the graduate will be reported in. A number of institutions have asked if they have no placements for a month, will they be required to submit the PVP spreadsheet? The answer is yes. We are going to require institutions to upload something so that we can maintain information on who did upload and who did not. However, as you see on the screen, what you will do is put in no placements in the position title column and then upload that. The position title is a required field, so you'll have to complete that information on the spreadsheet for that and then upload it, and then of course no emails will be sent out if you had no placements. Then we will have a similar contact policy for the every campus every month for the 2017 CAR period. We will send a first attempt again to both the the graduate and employer immediately upon submission, which would be obviously be at the end of the month, in this case August 31st. They will get an immediate email for the student and or employer. There will be a second attempt. In this case, this will be 2 weeks later. So this is, again, if the graduate or employer do not confirm, then we'll send an email 2 weeks later out both to the graduate and employer. And finally, a third attempt would be sent. This time it would be 4 weeks from submission if, again, the graduate or employer do not confirm. So there will be 3 attempts for all placements for the graduate and employer. However, if the graduate and employer do not confirm the campus, do not confirm in those 3 attempts, we are, for purposes early in this process, so definitely for the first few months, we will allow the campus to submit that graduate in the following month, but only 1 additional time will they be able to do it. So essentially, if the student or graduate's not able to be confirmed after the first 3 attempts, the first time it's uploaded in the spreadsheet, you'll be allowed to upload that student 1 additional time to see if the next 1, 2, or 3 emails would confirm the graduate. So you'd be able to do it twice. And an example, of course, would be for the July placement information. If they do not confirm following this August submission, after the immediate email, the 2 weeks later, and then the 4 weeks later, you'd be allowed to upload that student in the September submission for an attempt of 1 additional time for the emails to be sent out for a first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. If after those 3 attempts, which in all would be 6 attempts to both the graduate and or employer, there's no confirmations, then that would essentially not be able to count as a placement for that student in that position. And that is the placement verification program requirements and procedures. Now we will go to the submission guidance, accessing and uploading the placement form, and I will throw it over to Steve to discuss that.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Steve Gelfound. I am the VP of IT, and I will be explaining how to interact with the system. There are going to be 2 ways to access the PVP system. One, we will have a link on our webpage, acics.org, or you can access it directly via www.acicspvp.com. It will ask you to log in. Your login is your ACICS ID number and your password. If you do not know that, you can reset it yourself, or you can contact my department and we can help you reset your password. Once you're in, you'll be presented with a screen that will give you an option to download the template. You can also review the PVP guidelines. You will be able to pick the file you want to upload via the Browse button and upload it. You will be able to select your language if all the graduates are not English speakers. I will say that this will be for every student. So if you pick Spanish, the email will go out in Spanish to every one of the students and employers. You will also have the option, as Ian was talking about, is this your monthly submission, or are you slated to have a visit within 2 weeks? And you would go through the visit menu. So once you submit, it will ask you if you're done with the submission, if you have a change you want to make, or you have more graduates to upload within that given month. You can select no. If you are done, this is your final submission, you hit yes. Again, we will check the database for any existing student records. So if the student record matches on the graduate name and graduate ID, it will ask you if you want to overwrite that file. You can select, you see on the bottom of the screen, it will list the graduates out. You can select which ones you want to overwrite and just hit the replace button. Once you submit, and you said final, that is your final submission for the month. You will now, next time you log in, you are presented with a screen that will look something like this. It will show you all the people, all the students you have, graduates I should say, that you have submitted, and it will in real time tell you if they are verified or not. If they have been verified, it will have a green check mark next to them. If not, it will have an X. And every time you log in, it will update on the newest information that we have.
Thank you, Steve. So that is how you will access and upload the PVP information. So please make sure over the next couple of days you attempt to get into the system, www.acicspvp.com, as Steve said, or through our website with a link to there, and make sure you're able to get in and maneuver through the system, get the spreadsheet that you need and the guidelines that you need. We will now pass it over to Mr. O'Malley for Connor to discuss completing the placement form.
All right, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. I'm just going to go over the Excel sheet that Steve mentioned earlier that you're all going to be uploading to the website. We tried to make this as easy as humanly possible for everyone. So this is the first section of the Excel. It's all of the student graduate information where I have my information down here just as an example. You're going to have the student's first name and last name, their student ID, and it's important that it is the same student ID that's going to be in the car report, and also not their social security number, please. Also the graduate cohort date, their phone number, which would be used if we needed to reach out to this graduate. The email address is important to have an updated email address because this is what the automated emails will be going out to, and their corresponding placement date. The next section is the program information, where you have the program name and its corresponding zip code, the position title, which is required, which we mentioned earlier. If you don't have any placements for that period, you just put in no placements. Otherwise, you have to put in a title, and then whether or not it is full-time or part-time. Now for the placement matches, if it is by title, you will put the SOC code in and it will automatically populate if a SOC code is entered in the previous field into the SOC code field. If it is a skills match, you will want to put in the skills that the graduate is using in their placement that they learned from their program. It is important to note that you have a limit of 50 words. Anything after 50 will be cut off. The example here I have is for legal assistant. And lastly, if it's by benefit, you will just simply put a yes in the box. All right, and then the last section is for the employer information. It's pretty much exactly how it was for the student graduate. You'll have the employer's name, their location, website URL if there's one available, the point of contact should we need to reach out to the employer. This is the person we will ask for, their contact phone number, how to reach them, and then also you'll want the most updated email because this is what the email will go out to, the email provided.
Thank you, Connor. So that's how you will complete the form. Again, go into the system, download the form, and make sure you go through and are able to complete. And if you have any questions, of course, we'll give guidelines, and hopefully it will be self-explanatory, as Connor said, to put that information in. We will now go over, Dr. Turan King will go over the sample emails that will be sent out and what the graduate and employer will see upon submission of the PVP spreadsheet.
Thanks, Ian. Very briefly, we'll go over the 3 types of emails that could be potentially sent to a graduate, as well as the 3 types of emails that could be sent to an employer. So beginning with emails received by graduates who were placed by job title. This information is populated from the information that you enter into the spreadsheet, which Connor just went over. More specifically, pulling the program that the student graduated from, and the position title, and it offers the the graduate to say whether this is correct or click correct, to make a correction on any of the information that has been pre-populated, or to request a phone call. The next email that could be received by a graduate who was placed by benefit. This information also is pre-populated by the information entered into the spreadsheet. The program name and the position title is included, as well as an attestation to the job being maintained as far as a current position with supporting promotion, pay raise, or direct benefit to job-related skills. And again, the graduate has 3 options of yes, this is correct, they want to make a correction, or request a phone call. Emails received by graduates who were placed by skills. Again, the program name, the position title, and included in this is also job requirements, or basically the skills that you would enter into the spreadsheet would then be pulled over in the email as well, with the same 3 options that I indicated earlier. And very similarly, the emails received by employers, again, pulling out more specifically the graduate's name and the position title, if we're talking about placement by job title, with an extra column being the ability to comment. So they can request a phone call, make a correction, or say, yes, this is correct. Emails received by employers of graduates who were placed by benefit. Again, the graduate name, the language for the attestation of being this placement being by benefit, and the position title with the same 4 options at the bottom of the email. And last but certainly not least, emails to received by employers of graduates who were placed by skill. Again, we have the graduate name, the position title, and then again the skills are listed, and the same 4 options are available.
Thank you, Tehran. We are updating the emails, so the emails that are on this, the screenshots that you had seen are from the previous PVP. We are including a bit of additional information just to state to request to the graduate and her employer whether the job is continuing and sustainable as per our definition in the 2016 Campus Accountability Report guidelines. So the emails will essentially look like that, but we'll have just slightly different language to include that phrase in for the graduate and her employer. Up now we have what is seen on the back end on the administrative side by ACICS. As Tehran explained, those selections that can be for the email, I'm going to have Connor, who knows this system best, explain what the different categories mean and things that you see on the screen now.
All right. Well, everything that we see, these colored marks, all correspond with an option that Tehran just went over in the emails that the graduates and the employers get. If it's a green check, that means that they indicated a positive response to the email that we sent out. Essentially, they said that this is correct. A red speech bubble indicates that they did not agree and that it is an invalid placement. The purple no symbols indicate that we were unable to verify this placement. Both the student, the graduate, and the employer did not respond, and we were not able to get in contact with them. The yellow telephone symbolizes that they made a call request. The yellow exclamation mark indicates that a comment or correction was made by the employer or graduate, and the blue speech bubble indicates that a comment was made by the graduate or employer.
Thank you, Connor. So as you can see, of course, if it is a red speech bubble stating that it's invalid placement either by the graduate or employer, that of course would not count as a valid placement and not be able to be included within your campus accountability report as such. Similarly, with the purple no symbol, if there's no contact, as I said, after the first 3 attempts and then an upload again, and the next 3 attempts, there is no ability to contact the graduate and or employer via the PVP system, then again, that would also not be able to count as a placement in the campus accountability report. So we're of course looking for check marks and verifications from either the graduate or employer after these attempts are submitted out. So next, and finally, before we get into questions, we will go over some frequently asked questions. So some questions that we've gotten over the past week. We've certainly received a number of questions. Hopefully the presentation that we provided over the previous information from Steve, Tehran, and Connor, and myself has helped answer a number of those questions, and we built the presentation as such to answer a number of those questions, but some that don't fit into the presentation that needed some further follow-up are these that you see before you. So we do understand, we know a lot of institutions have had requested information about what if employers can't or won't confirm placement. We know there are certain circumstances where that will happen, where due to company policy or some other purpose, the employer has stated that they won't even, in some cases, give contact information or won't respond without some sort of process being completed. So we know that is as such. As much as is possible, we hope you can get with the employer and find the ability for them to confirm through this process. However, with that said, that's the reason why we do have confirmation only needing to come from either the graduate and or the employer. So if both obviously confirm, that would be great. But if just the graduate confirms, and that's obviously the individual that the institution is closest with, if the graduate confirms, that would suffice as confirmation of the placement. So it does not need to come from both. If it comes from the employer only, that also would count as verified information. So other institutions have asked about third-party placement verifiers. Obviously, a number of institutions use this process, and it, of course, remains a good process. And one reason, actually, why we have a 30-day lapse in recording or requirement for submitting placement verification information is to allow for the institution to have their either internal or external verification process go through what it needs to. We know a lot of institutions have this process that happens on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So we would certainly want you to continue with the process to make sure internally, of course, that all these graduates are appropriately placed and classified as such. However, the only way for the 2017 Campus Accountability Report, so moving forward from the July 1st date for when submission is due in November 1st, 2017, will it be able to count as a placement is if it is verified through this PVP process, through the process that we've explained previously. So even if a third-party verifier does provide confirmation. We are still looking that it gets verified through ACICS's process to ensure that we have information that all placements have been verified through our process. Continuing on with some frequently asked questions. We know, of course, that graduate situations change throughout the year. Of course, you know, if a student graduates in August or September, they may get a job in December of 2016, and then something may change. They may get a new job. Their classification may change. They may be military personnel and have to go on active military status. They may start school. There may be a health issue. So, of course, if the graduate's placement classification changes, you can certainly upload, as Steve was discussing, replacing a student with information that had already been submitted. Of course, if you already have a confirmed placement and a student and or graduate did confirm placement, then that would certainly still count as placement. But if the student did not confirm or something changed and then their status changed, you could upload them again with the new information. Of course, we would again be verifying that student, so we would need, of course, accurate contact information, and again would need to verify this process that they are placed. But as was asked, you can upload new information if the category has changed throughout the reporting period. Furthermore, we know and have a history. We've obviously been doing the PVP in practice for a number of months and in testing for even longer than that, and know that there are discrepancies or comments or corrections, as was explained by Tehran and Connor. So we will have an internal evaluation of these. Particularly of note was a number of institutions requesting what if the student says yes and the graduate says no, or vice versa. That is why we have a column for ACICS to make the definitive decision. So we would review the information. In some cases, as we have their contact information, may and probably will need to reach out to make a determination, and then upon that review would make the decision based on the information we have on whether that was a valid placement or not. I can say, and Connor could speak to it more, but there haven't been many circumstances where we've had a discrepancy. Most times either the student and or graduate has verified, and in the few times that there's been a discrepancy, we've been able to relatively clearly make a determination on which one it is. Finally, just to explain how the process will work for the PVP in connection with the Campus Accountability Report. Again, the CAR remains due on November 1st of course, for the 2016 CAR, which we're not discussing. That would be in this upcoming November. What we are discussing is the 2017 CAR, so of course that would be due November 1st, 2017. So students as normal graduates as normal can be placed up until that time, and they would need to be submitted in the PVP spreadsheet at that time. And then upon submission of the 2017 CAR, what we will do is have a validation test based on the reports that we have from the monthly PVP processes. So over what would be essentially 16 months of information we have, we would validate that against the placements listed on the CAR, and in any case where it did not, we're assuming that the institution will do that as well and only insert placements for those that would be listed on the Campus Accountability Report, but in any cases where it is not, we would not allow for that placement to count if they weren't confirmed through the PVP process. Finally, just a few helpful hints. Make sure you write out the full program name, registered nurse instead of RN, so that it's clear to the reviewer, the student, the graduate, the employer of what their title is. Same thing goes with the program. Please be clear and detailed as possible for what their program name is. Also, there have been a lot of questions about what documentation to maintain. We would advise that you continue with your process. A lot of institutions obviously have detailed processes for what information needs to be maintained for placements. It is helpful, certainly even for this process and for uploading what information you need to upload into the PVP process to make sure that you are, confirmed in the understanding of whether there's a placement or not. So we would certainly like you to continue with maintaining documentation, but the way that we will confirm, as mentioned, whether this is a valid placement or not will be through this PVP process. Finally, as Connor said, and I'll reiterate because it's extremely important, you must maintain current email addresses for both graduates and employers. It's extremely important. That is the crux of this process, is emails that graduates and employers have. You have valid emails, so be sure you're inputting the correct information. And be sure that if your graduate, has obviously since left your institution, that you have new information for that student. So that is the information we have. We're through about 2/3 of the time that we had, and as usual, we have a number of questions, so we will move to those. I will try and read through them and then give it out to one of my colleagues to answer as well. The first question, though, jumping right in, is will this webinar be posted to the ACICS website? Yes, it will. It will be in the same place as the webinars that we've had previously, so you will have this information for documentation. For employers who only use third-party verifiers, how will you confirm placement? Again, as stated, the ability is both for the graduate and or employer to confirm. So we know a number of employers use third-party agencies such as the Work Number to confirm their placements. So if you're not able to get a contact information or email from that employer, you would still have the graduate, of course, that would be able to confirm placement, and it would still count as a placement. I will try and look through some of the other ones. There's a question somewhat related with about initial grants. So any schools that are initials, those that are going through the application process, which are just a few schools left going through our initial application process, you would need to submit for the visit. If you have an upcoming visit in fall 2016, you will need to submit a PVP for the fall 2016 visit process. However, though, if you're not accredited to this date, you wouldn't need to be submitting placements through the monthly submission. However, you will need to be completing you will need to be keeping records on that information, because once accredited, we would ask you to complete the CAR, and we would ask you to complete the PVP information upon the time of completion, or on the time of accreditation. There's a question I'll let Steve handle about the technical side of where we can see who has verified or not. He can give a little more information on that. So I'll pass it over.
So again, when you submit your PVP, it will ask you if this is the final submission for the month. If you select yes, the next time you log into the system, you will only see a report that will list the individual students with all the information that you gave us about that graduate, I should say, and it will tell you if that graduate is verified or not.
There is a question about whether phone calls will be made for verification purposes, or will text messaging be considered. We can certainly consider it. However, at this time, we are working with the email process. So the emails will be the way that we confirm placement. We can certainly look into text messaging. However, we haven't done that as of yet. And the only time essentially we would make phone calls for the upcoming process is if there's some discrepancy or a request for a phone call is made by either the graduate or employer. We will have an individual or ACICS staff to make those phone calls. But we are putting the onus on the institution to ensure that they have correct and updated email information for those graduates and employers.
And just to feed off what Ian was talking about, in our beta test and in our testing of the system, we have around a 70% contact rate via email. So that seems to be a good way to contact. And again, we made it very small. The email is very short and to the point, so mobile devices could be used. It doesn't take much time to respond to an email. Also, as we've said, the system emails the employer and the graduate as soon as the file is uploaded. So you as a school would know exactly when you're going to upload that file, and in your contact with the graduate, you could tell them to look for an email on a specific day around a specific time if you knew when you were going to upload that file.
So we have a couple more questions about that Steve had explained about the process and what schools will see. So you will see live data as it comes in. So you will be able to track along with ACICS who is confirming and who is not. So you will have that information, and as information comes in, it will be updated to let you know. So that's another indication that you can certainly reach out to the student. And as Steve had said, and we've said, you will know the exact time when these emails will come out. They'll be once you upload, so you can prepare the graduates and employers for that. You will know 2 weeks out that if they hadn't done it, it will happen again, and you will know 4 weeks out if it hasn't been confirmed yet that you can that another email will be submitted. So you will be able to keep contact with the graduate and let them know. And we ask you, throughout this process, we know it's a change, but we'll ask you throughout the process to maintain communication with graduates and let them know that this is, information that's coming, and that's something that they'll need to do is to confirm placement with their accreditor. So Tehran has got one, so I will pass it over to Tehran.
The question is, if they choose request a phone call, who is calling them, ACICS or is the campus to do so? No, that would be ACICS that would contact either the employer or graduate, whomever has asked for the phone call.
So we have a question about whether documentation can be uploaded and whether that would consist of proof of verification. What we are looking, the answer is not at this time. What we're looking for is that the graduate and her employer confirms via this email process. So not that it's done through, a separate process or through a third-party process. ACICS has taken the initiative to ensure that we can verify all placements, and we have created this system to do such and have tested it for some months in years now to make sure that we're doing it. So we're asking the institutions who have been helpful in this pilot process and have been working through it to use this system as the way to verify placements. Steve has got an answer to another question.
There is a question about when downloading the PVP report, how are telephone numbers appearing? Should you use dashes? Again, the system does not automatically call anyone, so the phone numbers are used for staff. So whatever format, dashes are obviously easier for staff to read, but you can use any format.
All right, there's a question asking if they can include multiple email addresses. At the moment, we only have the ability to do one email address. It's something we can most certainly look into, but at the moment, it is one email address per cell.
So we have a couple of questions about, I think we've already gone over the process of still some questions, and this may be from before, about how the tracking will be done, and it will be the responsibility of the institution to go into the PVP system, into ACICS, pvp.com to see the live data, and you will have the same information that we have to see who confirmed or did not. So there's a question about how students will handle who have already been verified. We completed a PVP in February. If you have a site visit, it would only be for those that would have a site visit who also were going through our random selection testing. If that's the case, you can certainly contact us, but we would ask you to input that information, and if there's any issue on the confirmation, we can certainly handle that on a one-off situation, but that shouldn't be a number of schools that have done that. There's a question about some waivers. So what if a student is continuing education? Same thing with health, same thing with other processes. Right now, through the PVP process, there's not a confirmation for that. So if you are putting students on as waivers, we will go through our process of ensuring that those are accurate, but that will be separate from the PVP process. That will not be done through a confirmation email. On the last webinar, it was mentioned that attestations no longer are valid for new placements, but I just saw email verification with language referring to attestations. What is correct? The correct is that attestations will not be accepted. As I said, the email information we're still working on, that will be up in the next few days. So the sample emails you saw were the same type that you will see. However, the language will change slightly. Those were for the 2016, or excuse me, for the 2015 period. So attestations are not accepted. This again is only we're referring to the by benefit classification, and for by benefit you'll need to have you'll need to keep documentation if it's requested or required at some point that from the graduate from the employer that there was a specific promotion, pay raise, or job related skills benefit to that job. But the PVP process, if you think about it, is essentially the student and or employer attesting to the fact that they are, or verifying, better yet, to get away from the word attesting, but that they are verifying this. So that is the way that we will confirm the placement, is through this process, as opposed to simply through documentation. We know that is a change for some schools. However, if you've been keeping quality records and maintaining relationships with graduates and students, or excuse me, graduates and employers, you will be able to, work through this process and have the students, the graduates and employers confirm. Tehran has got one. So
I think there are a lot of questions, maybe worded differently, but getting at the same issue of how will schools know whether a placement was not verified? And you will have access to go into the PVP and see student by student whether it was verified. If it's green, okay. If it's green, it would be verified. So if it's not green, then that means it has not been verified, and you could then do whatever legwork you feel that you would need to do on your end to find that student or do some follow-up.
there's a couple of questions about what will happen if there's an invalid placement. Essentially, if the only information we receive is that it's not valid from either the graduate or employer, that would not count for your placements. If we continue to see a number of instances that are invalid, that might actually, or that will have us, and we will be running, daily, weekly, monthly reports on this information to see any discrepancies or any issues. But if there are numerous invalid placements, that would obviously be of concern that the institution is providing inaccurate information or not complete information, and we will certainly have a concern, and that might end up in further review or placement on the at-risk institution group if we continue to see issues. So, but to the specific question, if it's invalid, as in the student or employer says this is not accurate, then that would not be included as a placement. Similarly, if they don't confirm after all of the attempts, that would not be considered a placement. So we see some about what if a student or employer responds to email verification after a second attempt, will that count? Yes, certainly. So after any of the attempts, after the first, second, or third attempt, if we receive information, that will count for the confirmation. We have about 5 minutes left in this webinar, and as expected, have more questions than we can handle again. We will add these to our existing FAQs. We'll try and go through a few more to get them answered, to see any that we haven't already. But once again, we are just about finished with the frequently asked questions from the last webinar, and we will just add these onto them and get them out certainly next week before the PVP is due. But let's see if we can see any others that we haven't already done. Connor's got one, so I'll pass it over.
All right, there's a question as to where they can receive all stock codes. In actually the Excel that you download, there is a separate spreadsheet that is a SIP to stock converter. So you'll have that all available in that Excel that you download. You can get it there.
So there's a couple of IT-related questions. One about the zeros disappearing when you enter in your ACICS ID. That is fine. The system will either ignore or put in the leading zeros. The email system, we are confident it will not be hit as spam because we are not bulk sending the emails, as the emails are individually built for individual student, individual graduate, or an employer. They are going out one at a time. We're not bulk sending 50 emails to one employer or to, obviously we're only going to send one email to a graduate at a time.
All right, someone asked, If a request to make a phone call is made, how soon will the phone call be made? They actually have the option of choosing. They pick the date and the time. It is all Eastern Standard Time. I say that only because someone requested at 9, and I think it was they were thinking 9 o'clock California time, and I definitely woke them up. But they will be able to make the request as to when the call will be made.
All right, so we have a lot of procedural questions that we won't be able to get through, so let me try and highlight some of the important questions that I see just because we don't want to take up your time or ours on answering all of the different questions throughout this, and we also will need just, a bit of time to field through these questions, sort them, and get adequate answers to all of them. One question, though, that I did see was, seeing as though the webinar and guidelines are coming up on August 26th, and the due date for this is August 31st. Will there be allowed some leniency on the time frame of when it is due? We are saying that it will be due August 31st, so that is, I believe, next Wednesday. However, we do understand, and we will be reaching out to you if we do not receive it on August 31st, so you can expect an email if you haven't done it. However, seeing as though this is the first time, there won't be any necessarily punitive action if it's not submitted exactly on August 31st. However, over the next couple of days, you can certainly expect to hear from us, and we will expect you to get that information in. And as we go working through this process from month to month, it should be included within the institutional processes like anything else. So we'll expect, as time continues, for those to come in, and perhaps further actions could be taken if these aren't done in a timely period. So I think I'm overwhelmed, and I see all my colleagues also overwhelmed with the amount of questions we have. Not surprisingly, some of these we know we've answered throughout the webinar, so please take a look. They might have been submitted prior to us answering them. Some have been submitted as frequently as questions in the previous webinar, and some maybe new questions that we'll need to take a look through and get answers for. So seeing as though it is just about 3 o'clock here, we are going to call it for the webinar time, and we certainly will get answers to your questions. Hopefully you have a lot of information on which to make these decisions. All of the people on this webinar, Steve, myself, Tehran, and Connor, will be available for any questions that you may have and can answer them. Also, please see the webinar posting, and we will post the FAQs in the same place where you'll see the webinars. So under the webinar information, you will see our answers to the frequently asked questions document, which we again are pulling together. So once again, thank you for taking your Friday afternoon on this exciting discussion about placement verification and the PVP program, and we will speak with you shortly. Just a quick plug, we will probably be doing the AWARE webinar for the memo to the field in a couple weeks. We'll be getting that memo out shortly, and then we'll do a webinar on that as well in the next couple of weeks, so look out for communications about that. And again, thank you all. See you soon.